Okay, so we're going to be working on the, let me just change this to them standard. So we're going to be working on the rings of this bat now. So I'm just going to select this. But I think thinking I can just merge, I can actually merge this top rings and the pokers. So that they can just be on one sub tool. I think that would be a better idea. Let me just check this and be sure if everything is working correctly before I move on. Okay, because we have around 2K resolution, 2K polygons in here. So I'm going to just merge these two. So I'm going to drag this downwards. Okay, that's fine. Then I would, okay, this is it. Okay, this is fine. So I'll select the rings now. Then I'm going to merge this. I'll just scroll down, then merge down. Click OK. So they are both merged now. I'm still on solo mode actually, so I think this is fine. Yes, we can work with this the way it is right now. Okay. So I'm going to go to geometry and then subdivide this a few times, probably up to somewhere around 2 to 4 million polygons. But let me just go down the subdivision level here. So hit Shift D a few times to go down to the lowest subdivision level. Yeah, this is fine. So back in here, let me go back to the sub tool and select this instead. Okay. So now under the geometry tab, I can subdivide this a few more times. So the number does not really matter, it's the amount of polygons you have that is the main thing. So checking this up here. So somewhere around, okay, let's do one more. Yeah, 4 million would be fine for this. 4 million looks like a good number for this, that's fine. Okay. So let's see. So yeah, I'm going to create a new layer. I'm supposed to create a new layer just to save all of this in there. So layers, I'll create a new layer. Click on it. Then I'll just name this to, maybe just name this to base detailing. That should be fine. Enter, that's fine. Okay. Let's see. But I'm going to first, I'll start by detailing the rings actually. So let me go to the lowest subdivision level. Then on polygroups, I'll use auto group. So now we have this now. So I'm going to start isolating, probably I'll isolate the rings just to work with the rings only. Okay, so Control Shift and click on this, and click on that again, Control Shift and click on that, Control Shift and click on that, then Control Shift and drag out a selection to invert that. Okay, so now I can work on this. So let me just go to the highest subdivision level. The highest actually, this will be around subdivision level. Just, okay, let's go a bit higher. This is just 2 levels before the highest subdivision level. So I'm going to, I think this should be fine. So matcap gray is the better option for this. So I'm just checking this out just to be sure if everything's working correctly. I'm going to be working with this with a radial symmetry. So I'll be using the clay build-up brush. I'll go to transform. I'll scroll down. Okay, let me hit X on the keyboard first to go to symmetry. And I'll turn on mirror symmetry, radial symmetry. Okay, it's not there yet. I think I need to change the axis for this. So I come in here and just use the Y axis. Okay. So I think I'm using around let's see 6 or 8 radial symmetry should be fine for this. But it's completely up to you though. It's completely up to you. So let me just increase the brush size. Now just start painting, I'll just start brushing something in here. Let me take down the intensity and just keep brushing all over this. So I'm just trying to break up the surface so the surface doesn't look too smoothed and rounded. Because this is supposed to look like a beaten up metal that has been bashed and scratched and probably even smashed through with various objects just to just to break up the surface and then create some kind of indentation around the surface. So the clay buildup brush allows me to kind of fill up some of the surface, and then I can easily smooth them back down. But let me just keep blocking something out like so. Okay. I'm still going to be smoothing all of this back down anyways. And if I feel this is too intense, I can always take down the layer intensity for this. So with the smooth brush, now let me try and smooth this out. I'm actually on the subdivision level that is around 500k polygons. Let me just keep blocking this out like so, over and around it like so. So because we want radial symmetry, so this kind of make the process a bit faster for us. Okay. So I'll do for the inner part also. I don't want the inner part to feel empty. So I'm just going to work on the inner part, even though the inner part is not really going to be visible in our renders, but that's the fine. Let's just get some details in there so we have some kind of show more love around the entire model itself. Okay, so for the bottom part, just repetitive process around this also. Randomly blocking out shapes and filling things up in between just to break up the surface. Okay, and this will also add some kind of interesting texture detail to it also, which is actually cool, and that is exactly what we want. Okay, yeah, I think we can start. Let's see. I think we can start smoothing things in now. I think we're done with this. This looks good enough to work with. Yeah, can definitely work with this. Okay, and just feel the bottom part also. Just make this on that part feel a bit broken up. All right. Now the idea for this is that you don't want to use a radial symmetrical number that is way above 6, or way above 6, because if you use something above that and kind of brush around this, you don't leave any gap to make kind of break up the symmetrical nature of the radial symmetry you're working on. So you want to use something less. You want to kind of have some gaps in between. So those gaps will kind of give like some kind of empty space that will kind of make the model not feel too symmetrical, even though you're working symmetrically. Okay, so let me just take this down. So I'm using the H. I'm turning off symmetry now. I don't want to work with symmetry now. So let me just check. Okay, let me just take this down instead. 3 should be fine. 3 or 4 should be fine for this. So with the H polish brush now. So like I said initially, I want to leave gaps in between. So that's why I'm not using for the radial counts. I'm not using way above 3 or 4. Because I still want to have some gaps in between, and those gaps will give me more more space to kind of add something or block out something different in there to kind of break the symmetrical nature of the brush we used. Okay, so I'm using the twin dynamic now, so let me just use this and just block things out like so. I'm actually iterating in between turning on symmetry and turning off symmetry on this. But remember, I'm turning on symmetry. This is actually on radar. This is actually on radar feed. Okay, you can see the gaps in between them are kind of much, so that really helps. So let me just try to just break up the surface even more. No, this is creating a lot of dents. This twin dynamic brush is creating a lot of dents in here. I don't want that. So I'm going to undo everything I've done with the twin dynamic brush, because it's creating too much of a dent on top of this. I don't want that much dent. So I'll keep on doing that. Ctrl Z a few times just to though they look cool though, but they feel too aggressive. So I don't really want that. They feel too aggressive. Okay. Okay, I think we're in a good spot now. I think we're where we should be now before the twin dynamic brush. So now to kind of start smoothing things out. Now the smooth is not working properly in there yet. So I might need to no worries about the way it is right now, even though it looks too aggressive. You can always take down the layer intensity for this. So I think this particular brush is not, let's see. Smoothing is not really working aggressively on this because I want the smooth to be more aggressive on this. And I'm actually on the higher subdivision level right now. I might just have to use a stronger smooth brush. Let me just continue smoothing this out first. Let's see. So I'm just kind of smoothing out some of the details, not the entire detail we added in here, just some of it, just a few of this, just a few of it. Okay, just keep smoothing this out, and for the inner part also. So one very important thing to note, when if you want to add like details like indented details in your model, always try to make sure that that model is thick enough to hold it, because you don't want a situation whereby the model will be too thin and it won't be able to hold those indentation or details you're adding on top of it. And when you're trying to now big the normal maps on top of this, you kind of get weird, sharp, or like more or less like artifacts on your normal map. So you want to kind of make sure the model itself is thick enough to hold those details you want to sculpt in there. So that even when you bake the details on the normal map, it's kind of smoothed out. It does not get too crispy and then begins to have some kind of artifact in there. You honestly don't want that. Okay. So now let's work on the focus instead now. So let me turn on double sided so I can see all the sides for this. Okay. So let's start with one. So it's still the same repetitive process though. The same repetitive process. So I'm going to be using the same clay builder brush. But for this, I'm not going to be using symmetry because radial symmetry it does not work accurately for this. It does not really work accurately for this. So even though I take this down, let me put this around 4. Let's see what we have. Let's see what we have around 4. And it's not really it's not really working accurately. So I'm not going to be working on symmetry without symmetry for this. So that might even make me take a bit more time on this. But I'm just going to show you guys an example with just one of this, and then I'm going to just continue on to do that for the other parts also. So basically the same process like the previous one. So I'm just going to flood fill this with the clay builder brush. Okay, so I'm just going to go around this like so. You can also add some indentations on this. You can also do an inverse of this. While building this up, you can hold Alt on your keyboard to kind of even dig in with the clay builder brush, and without Alt build on top of this, hold Alt to build or dig into it. So more or less like a variation of both Alt and without the Alt, just to have more detail in there. Okay. So it's basically the same process I'm going to be repeating for the other parts of these pokers. Okay. So now I've gone around and then repeated the same process for all the pokers. except for smoothing this out, which is like the next step now. So I'm going to start smoothing this in now. But I want to let me kind of isolate them. I need to isolate them so I can work a bit better on this. So I'm going to click on this. So I've initially went in there and kind of given these top pokers the same poly group by maxing all of them out. And then to give them the same poly group, all you have to do is to click on Control W. So now I'm smoothing this out now. Okay. I'm using a different smooth for this. I'm using the smooth stronger for this. Okay. So just keep smoothing this out. So I'm going to be smoothing basically the same process also, smoothing out every other thing also, but you don't want to over smooth every single detail on it. You just want to smooth some parts and then leave some parts just to make it feel more random and then a bit more interesting. Now all of this we're doing here, once you start texturing this in Substance Painter, you really see the beauty of all these details we're adding in there. Okay. Sorry. All right. So it's basically the same process also for this, smoothing this out, or even digging in now. So let me use the same flippy dot brush and begin to dig in here. Holding the Alt key, I'll begin to break the surface even more by digging in, like so. Even more on the tip also. All right, something like this will be fine. Okay. All right. I think can smooth this out now. Let's begin to smooth all of this out now. Okay. So I'll just smooth all of this now. Yeah, that seems fine. That seems fine. That seems fine. That seems good enough to work with. Right. So I'll just repeat the same process. I repeated the same process for everything now and then smoothed everything back down. Okay, what else can we add in here? Let's see. Okay. I think we can let's create a new layer for this. And what can we name this? Let me name this chipping off. Because now I'm going to start breaking the those edges. I'm going to start breaking the edges even more. So I'm going to be using a particular brush for that, different brush for that. So I would go to Lightbox. So it's actually a trim dynamic brush actually. So let me go back. So I'm going to brush. I will just it's arranged alphabetically. So you go to trim. So this is the double click on this. So I'm going to be using the trim smooth border, the last one down here. So just double click on that. So yeah, that's fine. So I'm actually going to be working on this on the edge. So I'm going to break up the surface of the edge even more. Something like this, just to have some kind of broken off, as if it's being chipped off. More or less like, let's say, that particular surface kind of hits the wall or hits another metal surface that's kind of sharper. So it kind of created an indentation in there and then kind of chips off that rounded edge. So that's basically the effect I'm trying to create in here. So I'm going to start doing this all over. You want to be careful not to do this, not to go extreme on this. You want to actually always try to leave some gaps in between so that it feels more natural, because if you just do this all over the place, that will just feel very unnatural. And you want to avoid something like this also, so always go to the edge. You should be on the edge. So something like this should be fine. And I'll go maybe get a closer view and then just break up that surface even more. Let me undo that. So yeah, something like this, yeah, something like this. So it feels more like a chipping off, like a chipping off metal that hit another sharper metal that kind of make it chip off even more. So I'll just try to create most of this in here. I'm going to be doing that for the top and for the bottom rounded parts also. Click OK. So everything we're doing here, once we kind of start texturing this instead of Substance Painter, it will feel more interesting and feel more rounded. Right. Okay. So we'll just do more around here also. So I'll be doing that all over those three rings. Okay. So let me do this off in here. Let me undo that. I don't want to have something too thin. Something like that should be fine. Yeah, this is cool. That looks cool. You can see how from a distance it feels like a chipping off metal. So let's go in here, also Control Shift and click on this just to isolate that poly group. And kind of break up that surface even more. Alright. Okay. Yeah, that looks, let's see, maybe we can keep that or maybe not. Okay, yeah, that looks fine, we can keep that. Keep breaking up the surface. Once you do this, you always want to zoom out, kind of see how this looks like. And then you want to keep some gaps in between. You don't kind of do this all over the place like I explained before. You always want to keep gaps in between so it feels more natural, because naturally I don't think a particular surface like this will just scratch all over the entire ring. If it does that, that means it will make the entire surface, the entire rounded surface feel very uniform. And you want to kind of avoid that. So this is cool. This is fine. Okay, so yeah, I'll see you in the next lesson where we'll keep working on this model even more. So I think we're done with this for now. So bye for now.